FG meditation is an innovative and effective method which is free from the ideological attachments of other meditative methods. This method was abbreviated as FG meditation for Farshad's Geometric Meditation and created by Farshad Nazaraghaei. Laudation to the God of Majesty and Glory. Obedience to Him is a cause of approach and gratitude in increase of benefits. Every inhalation prolongs life and every exhalation gladdens our nature. Therefore, every breath confers two benefits, and for every benefit, gratitude is due. We live under stress, anxiety, worry, and other preoccupations in this contemporary age, and the more technology advances and the more modernity speeds up, the more our preoccupation grows. We therefore seek different ways to alleviate our worry and pains in such a stressful atmosphere. Among many different ways, meditation is an effective, secure, and less expensive method that not only decreases our present tensions, worry, and stress, but also promotes our mental health and concentration as well as expanding our self-awareness. Although meditation has a long history in human culture and various methods have also been labeled as meditation, especially in the East, it increasingly needs methods more adaptable to the objective rational content on one hand, and on the other hand to emotion-sensitive content of the contemporary person. In this regard, we will introduce you an innovative and effective method free from ideological attachments of other meditative methods. This method, abbreviated as FG meditation or Geometric Meditation, was created by an Iranian professional and is divided into two more specific parts: Geometric Somatic-Breathing Based Meditation and Geometric Introspective Based Meditation. FG meditation is an easy and concrete method based on powerful rational facts. FG meditation is performed via focusing of attention on directions and organized geometric shapes through breathing, which superposes with different parts of the body. The only requisite to achieve meditation is concentration. Concentration in itself means reducing the friction surface of attention to all things, phenomena, or subjects and increasing the friction surface of attention to a single phenomenon or one subject. In other words, it means to leave all and join only to the one. The description of concentration based on figures axis is as follows. Attention needs to move from plus infinity to 1. However, in some meditative methods, the extreme limit and ultimate subject matter of concentration is the quality based on 0 or minus infinity. If you convert the mathematical model of concentration to a geometric model, a triangle will appear with a base of plus infinity and an apex of 1. Therefore, the closer you go up from the base towards the apex, the more concentration you will get. Two sides demonstrate the radius of attention. In geometric meditation, your attention is organized on various directions including linear, surface, and solid or three-dimensional directions in accordance with different parts of the body, and it moves in coordination with breathing. Finally, you will get to the pointed or compressive attention stage. FG meditation is a method which performs with linear, surface, solid, and mixed concentrative techniques. A look at the different FG meditative methods, such as Geometric Somatic-Breathing Based Meditation and Geometric Introspective Based Meditation in the main category and familiarization with each technique. First, various linear and hyperbolic concentrative techniques. In FG meditation, the general meaning of meditation is purposeful and self-induced manipulation of attention, which leads to the experience of an altered state of consciousness and concentration. Attention here means brain capability and tendency to deal with a single subject or a phenomenon and to ignore all other subjects and phenomena at the same time. In FG meditation, we focus our attention on subtle vibrations and effects produced by the breathing process in each specific part of the body and dismiss all other vibrations and effects from our attention. These effects occur by the movement of muscles producing and facilitating breath in different directions and also by the entry and exit of air in the respiratory tract and by delicate vibrations created by the respiratory muscles movement in accordance with different parts of the body. A look at the different solid or three-dimensional concentrative techniques in FG meditation. FG meditation is a process in which subtle and sensible effects caused by breathing are followed in the light of form, root, and direction of respiratory muscles movements, the entry and exit of the airflow or slight vibrations produced by both processes, and in inhaling and exhaling stages. This process should be organized in some geometric shapes superposing to different parts of the body with the aim of manipulating, massaging, and modulating attention in order to reach the concentrative state and mental silence, as well as to experience altered states of consciousness. In this style of meditation, attention moves in accordance with the process of inhaling and exhaling on one hand and with the geometric shape on the other hand. In this method, it should be noted that forming of geometric shapes occur simply by following the specific routes and directions based on breathing effects and slight vibrations. To organize the figure, you need not put pressure on your mind. Once you find subtle breathing vibrations in your body, you may organize a specific geometric direction or form with your attention and move with it easily and in harmony. A look at the various plantar or surface concentrative techniques and geometric introspective based meditation in FG meditation. In this technique, attention is focused on the horizontal movements of abdominal muscles, outward with inhalation and inward with exhalation. Respiration at first occurs actively with more range of oscillation inward and outward. Abdominal muscles move on the direction of the horizontal line, superposing the navel, which is upright, to the longitudinal symmetry line of the body. Then, active breathing is surrendered and it will continue automatically. The longer respiration continues spontaneously, the more relaxed, lighter, thinner, and shorter it becomes. Therefore, oscillation range of the abdominal muscles becomes so small that the horizontal line disappears, retreats, and finally turns to short impulses inward and outward. At the end, breathing becomes calm and we feel no abdominal muscle movements. In this phase, the horizontal line will convert to a single point as a compressed ball. This state is known as pointed attention or linear breathing. Now, move the pointed attention up on the directional longitudinal symmetry line of the body and place it in the center of gravity in your head as if you're staying in your skull. Now, be aware of each feeling inside your head region, such as span, deliverance, expansion, and emptiness. Be aware of the difference between the heaviness of your head rather than the other parts of your body and your limbs. Be aware of your attention expanding throughout your body and experience the specific quality of body awareness. Sometimes you feel as if the borderlines of the head, the body, and other parts of the body separating you from the world around are being assimilated and vanishing, so the only quality left is awareness with no borderlines. As you see in the first technique, the respiratory oscillations graph is indicated on X and Y axis. X-axis indicates time or T, and Y indicates amplitude of oscillation in abdominal muscles or range of oscillation in attention. The amplitude of oscillation gets to 0 at the end of axis. If we join both ends, we will make a triangle demonstrating the extent of attentional shift in the period of time from the triangle's base to its apex. So, the more we move from the base towards the apex, the more concentration we will achieve. As the technique continues, and after observing the body, short and thin inhaling and exhaling impulses begin, accompanied by abdominal muscles short movements with less range of motion, so we will approach the second single pointed attention while breathing becomes slower once again. One of the unique features of FG meditation techniques is to present the meditative process in the form of mathematical graphs and functions for the first time ever. According to the diagram for each FG meditation technique, specific mathematical functions are provided with the variables of R and T, and they are indicating the oscillations of the present curve. The first and simpler equations are generally provided without considering the duration and the distance between inhalation and exhalation. However, all other functions are provided more slightly complicated and considering more components such as the number of breathings and the duration between inhalation and exhalation. In this technique, attention is focused on the ribs up and down movement. Follow these slight vibrations in the body caused by this movement of the ribs. Attention fluctuates upward while inhaling and downward while exhaling on the direction of longitudinal symmetry line of the body. As you can see, this movement is against the inflow and outflow of air. First, breathing is active and then it is surrendered and resumed spontaneously. The slower breathing becomes, the shorter the domain of attention movement and the direction of vertical line in each ends will get. Finally, this line will turn into a single point as a compressed ball in the thoracic sternum. Now, we are at the single pointed attention or the linear breathing stage. Now, like the previous technique, shift your attention into the head and the skull on the direction of longitudinal symmetry line of the body and experience body awareness aligned with the expansion of attention throughout the body and being integrated with the surrounding atmosphere. Nuruddin Al-Rahman Jami emphasizes breathing in his book Hafth-o-Rang as the following. It is said the wise man of faith founds his affairs on his breath. He never looks back or ahead, counts nothing but each precious breath. Each FG meditation technique occurs under the effect of the particular subtle vibrations and movements caused by breathing muscles movement, the inflow and outflow of air in the form of abdominal, the thoracic breathing or simultaneously. In all techniques, breathing occurs as an active, slow and deep inhalation and exhalation cycle, but then breathing continues passively with no effort. If we let breathing do its job spontaneously, it will get shorter and thinner. Finally, it becomes very faint and slow, then stops for short periods. In these techniques, short and slight halts of breathing's impulses intermittently occur. In each period of temporary breathing disappearance, the experience of the pointed attention or the compressed attention begins. Then, move your attention on the direction of longitudinal symmetry line of the body and towards the head and skull. Finally, develop it to the whole body. When the contraction of attention in the pointed concentration and in continuation of the expansion of attention throughout the body happens, it causes some modulations in the intentional scope, which leads to some plosive somatic feelings as well as experience of the altered states of consciousness. This technique traces the direction of airflow on the base of one nasal tract and septum. Attention moves on the base of the nasal canal towards the end while inhaling, and it moves through the nasal septum towards the nasal tip while exhaling. Breathing first occurs actively and long, but then it carries on spontaneously. Along the direction of attentional movement, an angle is made which starts receding in both ends while breathing becomes slower. Then it will turn into a point superposing the end of the nasal canal or the space between eyebrows. Be aware of how your attention deposits and settles on this specific zone. Attend to the quality of feeling you are staying with this area, and also attend on the feeling of slight vibrations to heaviness, pressure, tingling, and so on. Now shift this attention, which is as a compressed ball, to the center of gravity in your head and expand it on the direction of the longitudinal symmetry line throughout the body, with paying attention to the feeling of expansion inside the skull. The existing triangle on the graph indicates the extent in which attention has shifted from the base towards the apex. As you know, an absolute state of concentration does not exist. Only a relative state close to the absolute concentration state happens. In mathematics, asymptotes will appear instead of the straight line. Thus, two sides of a triangle approach to the one, but they never touch it. As if two sides of a triangle are our attention radius. As you can see, according to the existing graphs, the fewer subjects we attend to, the more attention we can allocate to the main subject matter over time. This effect happens through following the slight vibrations made by the diaphragm movement towards the pelvis in inhalation stage. Contraction of diaphragm causes it to fall out of the arched position, and it produces subtle vibrations towards the pelvis. Then, these slight vibrations are organized in an expandable hyperbolic angle as our attention mounts on a hyperbolic angle attached to a point inside the trunk, superposing the sternum, goes down to the sides with inhalation, and then, mounting on the same hyperbolic angle, comes back to the sternum with exhalation. In the first active breathings, the apex of this angle is attached to the sternum, and following that, it will switch to automatic breathing. While amplitude of oscillation becomes smaller, the apex moves toward a point superposing to the middle of pelvic area and the perineum. Finally, while the breathing becomes relaxed and placid, the amplitude of oscillation becomes as small as possible and turns into a compressed ball. Now, shift your attention upward on the direction of the longitudinal symmetry line towards the center of gravity in your head and expand it throughout the body. philosophical approaches, internalism and externalism, in the philosophy of mind are talking about how the mind is formed and organized on the basis of changes in and out of the nervous system. In internalism, mind is formed by pulses inside the nervous system, while in externalism, mind is formed by other physical systems such as the circulatory, the respiratory, the digestive, and the endocrine system, as well as muscular and skeletal structure, body shape, and etc. One of the subjects on embodied cognition as a branch of externalism is to describe how the mind depends on the shape and the general state of the body and reacts to your physical structure. For example, the outer shape of the body and the neck is structurally similar to a hyperbola. In these techniques, one reason behind this question of why the mind is tending to follow a hyperbolic direction superposing the body and the neck while breathing might be covered in such an explanation of the embodied cognition. This effect follows the subtle vibrations of the diaphragm movement towards the upper trunk and the head, which appears with each exhalation. These slight vibrations with the center of the sternum can be organized upward in the form of expandable hyperbolic angle that shoots our attention out to the top of the head region like a fountain. While the breathing becomes slower and shorter again, the expandable hyperbolic angle moves towards the neck and finally reaches the fontanelle area after passing a point in accordance with the Adam's apple and the center of gravity in the head region. Attend to the feelings of delicate vibrations that superpose the fontanelle, which shoot out to the top of the head in the form of gentle pressure, tingling, and heaviness while passing through the hyperbolic angle. Attend to the throat, then inside the head, and also to the feeling of heaviness and pressure left in these areas. Finally, as the breathing slows and becomes thin, the amplitude of oscillation of the expandable hyperbolic angle moving to the fontanelle becomes as small as possible, and it turns into a point or a compressed ball. Staying with this point and being aware of how attention settles and sediments in this area. Transfer your attention on the direction of longitudinal symmetry line of the body to the center of the head and then observe inside the skull. Thereafter, move your attention to the lower part of the body, and after passing through the Adam's apple, thoracic sternum, and the center of gravity in the abdominal cavity arrives in the middle of the pelvis. Staying here, move your attention, a compressed ball, up on the direction of longitudinal symmetry line of the body inside the head, and finally spread it throughout the body. In this technique, attention is firstly focused on sternum and it is surrendered to the expandable hyperbolic angle downward with inhalation and to the expandable hyperbolic angle upward with exhalation. But two hyperbolas on the sternum are shifting along with the direction of longitudinal symmetry line of the body and gradually moving the opposite direction. One hyperbola is moving moving downward below the sternum and the other one is moving upward above the sternum. In this process, while the amplitude of oscillation of two hyperbolic angles becomes the smallest, attention reaches to the ends of longitudinal symmetry line of the body. Under the effect of the abdominal breathing, move downward from the sternum with inhalation and upward from the sternum with exhalation. In this technique, attentional shift occurs under the effect of the subtle vibrations towards the pelvis while inhaling and being spread towards the head while exhaling. Both are created by the diaphragmatic impulses. In this technique, by inhaling coordinately, move your attention with the subtle breathing vibrations through the hyperbola, which begin from your sides to your shoulders and shoulder blades, and then turn back the same direction from the shoulders and shoulder blades to your sides with exhaling. The amplitude of oscillation becomes small once the breathing becomes slow and the two arches making hyperbola penetrate to the body. Finally, the two hyperbolic arches turn into a point superposing the sternum. In this manner, while these two arches meet each other in the sternum, they get to the smallest range of oscillation as a point. Once you reach this stage, you feel sometimes only this area around this point in your whole body. In this case, be aware of how your attention deposits and settles on your sternum. Pervasive hyperbola surrounding the neck is formed by the previous bilocated concentration in the neck. Finally, a point at the Adam's apple would host your final attention. Similarly, the same event occurs in the head and a point in the gravity center of the head would host your attention. Now, move down your pointed attention and settle it in the abdominal cavity. Attention is essentially a dynamic element. Therefore, the subject matter as the host of your attention must have a dynamic essence, because attention immediately gets away from focusing on any still and static subject. Breathing might be the only subject to be considered as a changeable macroscopic subject. Breathing consists of 4 stages: inhalation, exhalation, holding of inhalation and holding of exhalation, and also in different conditions such as wakefulness, sleep, and dreams is following throughout the body. Thus, breathing has powerful potential to attract the attention and to be in harmony with attention. It should be mentioned that there are several forms of attention, and each is related to some specific parts of the brain, including overt, covert, exogenous, and endogenous attention. All hyperbolic angles formed on a vertical direction in the body are horizontally formed in the abdominal cavity. In these techniques, the center of gravity of the abdominal cavity is as an origin for expandable hyperbolic angles. Commence moving from this point towards your sides and move back on the same direction to the center of gravity, and after taking several active breathing cycles, reach the point superposing the navel or spinal column. Similarly, all other hyperbolic techniques occur in the abdominal cavity. Using this technique, you can truly make your feet and legs deeply relaxed. In this technique, move your attention towards two expandable hyperbolic angles that start simultaneously at the knees and extend to the thighs while inhaling. The angles spread from the knees through the legs while exhaling. Hyperbolic angles are then isolated from the knees and move upward to the top of the thighs while inhaling and downward towards the ankles while exhaling. As breathing slows, their range of oscillation becomes smallest and then turns into a point at the joints between pelvis and thighs, as well as between legs and ankles. Using this technique, you can truly make your hands and arms deeply relaxed. In this technique, send your attention towards two expandable hyperbolic angles that start simultaneously at the elbows and extend to the arms while inhaling. The angles spread from the elbows through the forearms while exhaling. Hyperbolic angles are then isolated from the elbows and move upward to the top of the arms while inhaling and downward towards the wrists while exhaling. As breathing slows, their amplitude of oscillation becomes smaller and then becomes a point at the joints between arms and shoulders, as well as between forearms and wrists. By contemplation, I swear, and by the beginning of the speech, by the flight of a dove from the mind, a word is in the cage. My words were as luminous as the meadow. I told them, a sun is on your doorstep. If you open the door, it will shine on your action. I also told them, stone is not the ornament of the mountain, just as metal is not the embellishment of an axe. In the palm of the earth is an unseen jewel, by whose radiance all the prophets were dazzled. Seek the jewel. Take moments to the pasture of prophecy. To them I gave the good news of the coming of the herald, the nearness of the day and the abundance of color. the resonance of the red rose behind the wall of harsh words. I told them, he who sees the garden in the memory of wood, his face will eternally remain in the swaying of the grove of fervor. He who befriends the birds of the air will have the most peaceful sleep in the world. He who gathers light from the fingertips of time will open every closed window with a sigh.